All right, welcome to the CoVis Codex, the interview podcast that wants you to be yourself and not your brand.
Relief.
I'm just going to ask you a couple questions, probably a dozen. And the first one is, who are you and what do you do?
Wow, this is kind of like, what do you want to be when you grow up, right? Those sorts of questions. As you can see from the lovely graphics, Brian Smith is my name. The stuff that I do, wow, that's a question that always stops me and makes me pause and ask myself, how much do I want to reveal to the person who just asked me that question? Because there are a lot of pursuits, a lot of little things, a lot of bits and pieces, and when I put that all together, people kind of go, wow, you really do all that?
Do you sleep?
Well, sort of. I get 9 hours.
Wow.
It's like sleep is no problem. I figured out a long time ago that sleep needs to be a priority because otherwise it just screws up the whole rest of your day, and you spend the first 2 hours of your morning going, oh God, I'm so tired.
Right.
And then the last 2 hours trying to stay awake to finish whatever you're doing. So 9 hours of sleep. That's what I do. I'm going to stop right there.
That's what your business card says. I sleep for 9 hours.
9 hours. If it's like Monday, funny that Monday I get up early. It's really like half an hour early, so it's not that big of a deal, but I can still feel the difference. So Monday I do what I call the Monday Super Start, which is a very easy program to make my life completely fun and different. So I invite a remarkable person to coffee at 8 a.m. on Monday morning. So we sit and talk for like an hour and a half, exchanging all these crazy ideas, having kind of sparking each other, and you walk away from that feeling really energized and like you've had the best meeting of your whole week, and you've had it Monday morning, so you kind of feel like you're jazzed for the rest of the week. And it's such a better way to start the day than go to the gym.
Yeah, it sounds pretty good.
Which I do not.
You don't go to the gym?
I don't condone going to the gym. The only reason I think I would run is if someone were chasing me.
Right, yeah, that's my thought exactly. Running is for when a dog or a policeman is chasing you.
Right. Or both.
Right, exactly. Both of them. Yeah, you better be. So, if you had to narrow down what you do to one thing, what would it be?
Yeah. It's conversations. So, yeah. I tend to work in creative problem solving. So I figure out ways to, it's basically a process where I help people figure out to define their problems, business problems, and then to act as a catalyst to kind of excite the existing elements and get them to solve their own problems. So trying to get people to go through a process where they dig through the surface and get rid of all the superficial reasons for why things aren't happening and why, in a branding situation, what their beliefs are. Everybody believes in the same thing. It's authenticity, it's transparency, it's accountability. It's you have to get through that layer of I want to sound good to other people until you get to that point of, okay, this is real for me, and it's great fun to watch somebody say something and their eyes get wide because they realize that they just said something that was really meaningful and profound. So that's kind of like how I help people create the solutions to their own business problems. Conversation is also engaged in TEDx Omaha. So I'm involved in the global TED community. I produce local TEDx events. I mentor other people who are new event licensees in a couple of states and help people produce, kind of get ready for their either putting on an event or helping to advise them on the structure of their own TEDx talks that they're doing.
Okay, and there's two things. They're like TED Talks is the original one, and then TEDx are like locally created.
You know it all.
Well,
that's great.
That's all I know.
Yeah. So here's the official pitch: is that TED was created in 1984 as a one-off conference for technology, entertainment, and design, which is where the TED acronym comes from.
Oh, it's not the guy with the big ego. Like,
no, a handlebar mustache TED.
Yeah.
So basically there was a Saul Werneman put this thing together, and he said, there are amazing things happening in each of these industries, but nobody talks to each other. So I'm going to get them all in one room, and we're going to talk to each other. And the big historical element of this is that in 1984, this is where Sony unveiled this compact disc. So it was a big deal.
They unveiled it at TED? Oh.
Yeah, so they released it to the world. They're like, look at this little piece of plastic. It's really awesome. And then, so TED it's a nonprofit, and they run two major things every year, which is TED and TED Global. So the same conference, it's 18 minutes or less. The best speakers and thinkers in the world who are giving giving everything they have in this one little thing that's like the most amazing state of the world address that you've ever heard. And then in 2009, they created the TEDx program, which is a response to people like you and me who would get together and watch these videos and talk about them and talk about how amazing they were. But basically, it's a format. It's a free license for people like me to hold TED-like events in their own communities. So I find, say 10 really remarkable people and help them kind of define their idea that's worth spreading. Give them 10 minutes, 15 minutes on the stage, maybe 6 if I'm lucky, and say, here it is. Go ahead and share this with the community. And so, I think TED releases the numbers every month from now, but there have been like over 12,000 TEDx events in 130 or 160 countries around the world. So they're all independently produced, independently organized, but they're all net zero. So the organizers don't get paid, speakers don't get paid. It's something that people do out of an avocation, out of love for love for these new ideas and love for the people who are in their community, and just they want to spread new stuff.
Right.
So with all those things, what I do is a little weird because I kind of tend to walk around the fringe of a lot of groups, and I'm not really deeply involved in something like organizational development or in kind of the coding world or entrepreneurship or scientific research or whatever it is. But I go to some of the meetings like you do, and you kind of are there to learn, figure out what's going on, and then identify those things that are kind of universally appealing that anybody could be interested in because it's just a great topic.
Yeah. Cool. That's interesting. And your job is pretty easy because, there's a lot of interesting people and exceptional people here in Omaha. So you just have to look around, throw a rock, and
yeah. We've done this. It's funny. We've done 5 main stage TEDx Omaha events. So those have been between 10 and 14 speakers. Going forward, it'll be 10. 14 is like too many people to put in a 6-hour. We have a 6-hour program that has long breaks, and so putting 14 people in is too much. This year we started the TEDx Youth at Omaha program, which is for high school students. We do salon events, which are people watching, back and forth. But I've put, in the last 5 years between these events, I've put like 70 people on stage, who are, but you're right. I mean, they're just, if you stop to listen long enough, which I am obviously not great at, if you stop to listen, you can hear that there are people who have really great ideas, who are doing really remarkable things. A lot of times they have national and global impact. But we don't talk about ourselves very well. We're not a very openly communicative community when it comes to talking about the great things that we do. And there are a lot of people that that live on your block that are doing work globally that you just don't know.
Yeah. Well, speaking of talking about ourselves, let's get to the meat and potatoes. Start with the crowd favorite. Who has been the most influential person in your life?
It's interesting. Just like everybody else, I don't want to take that easy way out and say, I've had so many people who are influential. I'm really interested in change. And so one of the people that is kind of a personal hero for me is Malcolm X, who was born in Omaha. So go Omaha. And of course, the local Ku Klux Klan set fire to their house and made their family move. Different story.
Right.
But one of the things that just that's so compelling to me about him is the radical changes that he went through in his life. Somebody who was born into a cycle of poverty and a cycle of racial inequality, and really suffered because of that. And his father was a Marcus Garvey style preacher, and really was talking about empowerment. But it didn't end up in his life. I mean, he was somebody who, as a young person, had to leave home, and was kind of fell into a circle of crime and violence, and ended up in prison, and had this major transformation that people kind of know him for, which was when he joined the Black Muslim movement, and became this enormously powerful and provocative speaker who had these ideas that were so outside mainstream white America. But then he had realizations about the Muslims, and part of that was really then accelerated when he took a trip to Mecca, and he actually did. He went and he did his pilgrimage, and he realized that there were Muslims from all over the world, and it wasn't a racial thing. Racial situation was prevalent in the States and in his life, and it was such a all-consuming thing. But he left that scenario and went someplace else, and saw that the true faith of Islam was so much different. And there was another element of transformation in his life, which eventually led to his murder. But there were so many elements in his life where he had just these moments that he had to depart from who he was and make this enormous change in his life. So that's kind of one of the things that really resonates with me, and I try to stay cognizant of is that everything changes. Human beings don't necessarily like change, and it's something that we sometimes struggle against, and we don't. We're afraid to leave jobs. We're afraid to do to do something that's different because it's a risk.
Yeah.
And that's one of the other things I love talking about with people is, what risks do you take with your work? Because it sort of normalizes that in a way that we really. I think it's healthy for us to understand is that everybody takes risks. Everybody has these moments of discomfort, and sometimes there are long periods where things are just not working for us. But there's always something that is on the other side.
Yeah, well, that's an amazing answer. Thank you.
Deep. What can I say?
So let's get to the next, very interesting question. Are you an introvert or an extrovert?
For the large, it's ambivert. Ambivert. I mean, everybody's heard the ambivert. It's that sign up on the interstate that says there's a kid missing. Ambivert.
No, I don't think that's it. I think that's the Amber Alert.
Yeah, there was a guy who had a van in my neighborhood, and the license plate was AMBRLRT.
Wow.
Yeah.
It wasn't you, right?
No. There was a guy.
Okay.
But, really I have the introvert, extrovert, ambivert thing is really kind of where do you draw your energy reserves? Exactly. And I think a lot of people work in a similar way where they have, they can be social for a set amount of time, and then they have to kind of go back and recharge. So I think I tend to work really well in small teams or individually, and I think that's kind of where I get the ideas. I incubate, and then when it comes down to the action mode, that's where the extrovert Brian comes out, where I'm helping people to I'm kind of that guy off the side of the stage. which is what my real role is with like TEDx Omaha. It's that I'm not the guy on the stage saying all these amazing things. I don't need the spotlight. But I can come on to, I can get these people onto the stage. I can help share their ideas. I can help them kind of create this conversation that goes on. But I don't,
You don't want to do the talking.
I've done it. I've done speaking. I've organized events. I've trained speakers. I actually represent a couple of speakers right now as an agent. And I've kind of gone through all pieces of that, and it's kind of one of those things where I think I'm most comfortable as an event organizer, but I have done a good amount of speaking, and actually the one that kind of stood out to me was the one that I did last year in Canada for while I was at an event called TED Active, and I gave a 2 minute and 45-second little TED talk. Wow! Yeah. It was great.
You can give sentences. You can give conversations or talks that short.
Every answer I've given you has been 2 minutes and 45 seconds.
No, they've been 6 minutes each. I've been tracking them.
It was great. It was a talk about a photography project that I had done, and it was so really out of 2 minutes and 45 seconds, I only talked for like a minute. Everything else was just kind of
showing the pictures,
showing the slides. Me and my vacation.
Awesome. What is one thing about you that would surprise most people? Like that people just, even when you tell them their eyes open up, they just wouldn't expect that.
I really don't like animals.
Really?
It's already surprised.
Yeah, you got me. Whoa. But the reason you got me is because you do this thing on Instagram, I think it is, or just Twitter, where you're posting pictures of stuffed animals throughout town. At first, I thought you were just accidentally stumbling across stuffed animals. I'm like, there can't possibly be that many stuffed animals downtown.
It's been revealed I am the plushie bomber. That's the hashtag. It's plushie bomb.
Plushie bomb.
Right, and it's kind of a little art project to figure out like where can I take these little stuffed animals and I can put them places where they're usually not accessible by regular reach, but it's just something that people have to be paying attention to the environment to notice, because they're not, it's not on the sidewalk. It's somewhere kind of tucked out of the way.
So you leave them there?
I do.
Okay, I thought you just would put them somewhere, take a picture, and then grab it.
Well, part of it it's environmental and community element, because do people notice them? Do they take them down? Do they take them home? What happens? Actually, the first one that I ever did was a polar bear, and there are two broken glass blocks, glass block windows at the Kaneko, the art center downtown, and I put the polar bear in to this broken out glass block. It fell out at one point, and somebody took it down the street to Roma's Coffee House and put it in the magazine rack.
Oh, wow.
So it has this little life of its own.
Yeah, he's traveling all on his own.
That's it.
That's cool. Yeah, you just never know what happened to the other ones.
That's right.
There should be like a barcode or something where someone scans it, and
I'll put a little tile on it so I can track where it goes.
Yeah.
Not show up at somebody's house. I know you have my plushie.
Where's my plushie?
I need it.
I got a tracking around. Yeah. All right. What did you think you'd be doing now as a kid?
I honestly had really no idea. Shocker.
That is so weird.
My friend Jeff Katurba wanted to be an astronaut.
Okay.
He's
an artist now.
He is. He's. It's funny. I did an interview with him. Actually, he spoke at my first TEDx event ever, and there are fewer than I think 80 editorial cartoonists on staff in the United States. And he's one of them, and it's really one of these very small. It's not like a career path. Nobody, there's not this program to go to school to be an editorial cartoonist.
Right.
You have to love politics, and you have to have this love and talent for drawing, and find someone who will pay you for them. So there's this weird Venn diagram that goes on with that. But yeah, when I was a kid, the only thing I thought is I guess lawyers make money and physicians make money, so Maybe one of those?
Lawyer
I don't know.
or doctor.
Right.
Yeah. That's the path my mom would have wanted me to take.
But it's that parental drive. Like, we know there's got to be some stability for this kid. Please let them get spend 8 years in college and actually end up doing something with their lives.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Doesn't work.
All right. So the last question would be: is there anything you'd like to pitch?
I would. One of the things I have been interested in is getting more people to look into doing their own TEDx events. So there's TEDx Omaha that I run, which is typically we have that in October. It's 10 speakers. It's a lot, that live event where we have 500 people come into this auditorium and hear these great things and then have conversations. And it's really great because it's an event that people love. We started TEDx Youth at Omaha this year, which is geared towards high school students. So they have the ability to have something that's specifically created for them, and it's their peer set. So they can have these conversations and kind of see the things that are happening here that kind of twist the dynamic a little bit. Because if you realize that all these amazing things are happening in your own city, you don't necessarily need to leave to do something that's great. But most people don't realize that they can have their own TEDx events. TED just licenses these events as a single one-time thing. They're not geographically based, so you could do TEDx Pacific Street, and you can organize your own thing. It can be like an hour and a half program where you have 3 speakers or whatever. But we're trying to. Between me and the guy who runs TEDx Lincoln, we're trying to encourage more people in the state to do an event because culturally it's something where you start to help people value what's already in your community. You start to spur some of these conversations and spark some topics that are important or are of interest and kind of universally that people want to know. And it's different for each community. So the stuff that they would do in McCook or Shadron or Schuyler or wherever is going to be, there's stuff that's going to be universally appealing, but there's stuff that will be important conversations as a community. So, really putting some of that stuff together can be, again, mine is a little more complicated. I've got a team of people. We raise money every year for this that goes, that provides funds for the event. We do different stuff, but you can do one with like 10 people in a room and 3 of them are going to give a talk, and that's as easy as it can be. Wow. So I would love to pitch that more people will look into TEDx events for themselves, or even just gathering a group of people to have a conversation. I did one a couple of months ago that was around these global problems and the Internet of Things. It's like, how do we start putting this conversation together where we have people who are interested in IoT or people who are interested in infectious disease and all that sort of thing. How do we get those people together in a room to have that conversation so that we can start to spark these relationships that maybe at some point take us somewhere.
Right. Yeah. Cool. So if someone wants to get a hold of you, is there a website they can go to?
There are many websites.
For you?
For me. Typically briansmith.biz. Again, don't go to the .com. If you go to the .com, you'll see a bunch of photography. Not my photography. And we don't want to give that guy money. He lives in Miami. I mean, I've Google Streeted his house.
You want to
Google mapped his house.
Visit him, be like, hey,
it's a nice place.
Can I get this domain name, please?
I want to know how the other Brian Smith lives.
I'm more Brian Smith than you.
Well, maybe when he passes on, I can petition his estate to, bequeath to me the top level domain name that I so richly deserve.
It's possible. It's possible. All right. Well, Brian Smith, thanks for joining us for this episode. This long-winded episode. Which is great. I love long conversations.
I set out from the start to make this the longest Codex interview ever.
I'm pretty sure you've accomplished your goal. For you viewers and listeners, please subscribe and sign up for the podcast RSS feed and all that, so you get the latest episodes. Make sure to share this and like this and all that good stuff. I'm CoVis, and thanks for listening and watching.